Hello and welcome to the FTB Premier Reaction Show. I'm joined by two wonderful guests today. Firstly, we've got Ian Brewster, the father of Rian Brewster. Ian, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, Karleigh. Thank you very much. How are you?
Good. I'm very well, thank you. Good to have you on again. Obviously, we've been on a show previously where we spoke about some stuff which was fantastic and a great insight into the journey you've been through as a footballer's father, shall we say, and obviously the journey that Rian went on, which was fantastic. So that was a really good show, and thank you for joining us again today.
No worries.
And also, we're joined by Jay Motti of Stretford Paddock. Jay, how are you?
I'm all right, man. I've sort of got away with it a little bit because you could have done this on like midweek after the Sheffield United game, and Ian could have really stuck the knife in. So I'm hoping there's been a few days I might get away with this one.
I'm gonna try somehow to get that game involved somehow. I don't. Listen, keep liking, subscribing. We're loving the support we're getting. We really appreciate it. And of course, we've actually got a promotion this week. So what we're planning to do with our promotion is we've just launched it. Free football shirt with any name, any shirt. You have to like and subscribe, share our content, and you will be in with a chance of winning. So make sure that you keep an eye on the socials and have a look at that competition coming out because it's going to be a good one. Should we get into the games, gents?
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Good. So first game up, Manchester City versus Sheffield United. Of course, that's the first one, Ian. It would have to be, wouldn't it? I'll come to you first on this. What did you think of Sheffield United's performance in this game?
Right. Considering what happened last time out, thought there'd been a little bit more energy. Look, they worked hard. I always felt this game was going to be even harder for the fact they put so much energy into that game against Man U. You know, if there's one team you don't want to be facing after that, it's a Man City team, especially in the form that they're in and how they keep the ball, the possession they have. As much as it was only 1-0, and yes, it was a very poor goal to concede. The defender was terrible. I always felt that even if it was 0-0 at that time, City at any time could have just turned it on and scored a goal. That's how I felt. You know, you look at their bench, you know, you had Mahrez on the bench, you had Sterling on the bench. You just think, wow, at any given time, they could just put anyone on, you know, to get that goal that if they needed. So I always felt it was going to be a difficult one. I felt if they got anything out of the game, it would have been a bonus. You know, if someone would have said to them, look, you've got 2 games against Man U and Man City, but you're going to take 3 points, they would have bitten your hand off. So I think it was a bit of a free hit. I think people look at it more now because of the fact it was only 1-0. Probably if they'd got thumped 3-0, no one would have said anything. They said, oh, what do you expect? But the fact it was only 1-0, people are probably thinking, oh, maybe you could have got a point. And then, you know, reflects a shot right at the end, just missed the post. You know, they could have sneaked a 1-0 and got that point. That would have been a tremendous week. But to me, their season starts, I think it's Tuesday when they got West Brom. You know, they talk about 6-pointer. That's a 9-pointer. You know, but yeah, that's what I think about that.
No, it's been a tough season from so far, and they just can't seem to get the run going, can they? There's been sporadic performances where they put, a really good performance, got a good result, but they just can't seem to get it going. But are we seeing slight improvements from Sheffield United, and a little bit more, maybe a tiny bit more of the Sheffield United of last season with how they was performing? Do you think?
Yeah, because certain players are playing that little bit better now. You know, like Chris Wilder said, he said when they won that first game, I believe it was against Plymouth, and he said, look, winning, there's no bad way of your feeling when you're winning. You know, yes, it was against, a lower league team, but at the end of the day, that mentality, it's not like, oh, final whistle's gone, we've lost again, Yeah. So that's shown in their last performances to then get a result during the week. So I do believe you're going to see a slight change. Whether they'll get out of it, it's a tall order. You've got to be relying on people around you to be losing and so forth. Not a bad result from yesterday with West Brom drawing with Fulham, because I don't think they could have afforded either of their teams to be winning, to be honest with you. I think what's on their side is that other teams are slowly getting dragged, look like they might be getting dragged into it. I think that was a massive result for Newcastle yesterday. But obviously we'll probably go into that later. But I think their hope is other teams will slowly get drawn into it to give them a bit of hope. I think no matter what, they have to win against West Brom. A draw's no good to anyone. Yeah, if they draw, 100%, it's done. It's done.
Yeah,
because they're not going to get many points from the others. But they need to win that game and go on a little bit of a run. They need to win at least at the next 5 or 6 games. They need to win at least 3 of them, at least, and then maybe get a draw here and there.
Yeah, 100% agree. And just coming to you, Jay, I know it's probably not your favourite team to speak about, but Man City, I mean, they've really hit some form, haven't they? And this season's been stop-start for most teams. It's been an uncertain season. No one's kind of been guaranteed anything. But do you think Man City now, the way that the form they're hitting and the way they've been playing of late, that they're coming a real force, aren't they? Yeah,
unfortunately, it pains me to say you're right, and Ian sort of touched on it then. They've got a squad, City, like few other teams, if any team has. They rested players for the Sheffield United game, and they've still got quality on the bench. You're talking about their record signings sat on the bench, and I think they rested, is it Aguero and De Bruyne, or weren't available, or whatever, whichever way. They rest players, and yet they've still got quality not only on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, on the bench. And it's just really sort of frustrating, and as a United fan, a Manchester United fan, because it's the hope that kills you. And I was watching the Sheffield United game, thinking as Ian was mentioning, the Fleck chance, and Ramsdale pulls off an amazing save, and you think, is this it? Is this going to be like an upset? But they've just hit the stride in it really now, Man City, and they seem to be sort of mixing up the performances where they'll steamroll over a team and then they'll grind out a result, and that's how you win titles as well. It's not just you batter everyone. That never happens really. You have your results where you batter teams, and you have your results where it's a bit back to the wall for the last 5 minutes or whatever, and you have to dig deep. And they've got that. And one thing, they've got the experience as well. They've won titles. Them players have won titles. So I think City are getting into their stride. They've got the quality there, and unfortunately now I can see them just kicking on really and not walking it or blowing everyone away. But I'd be very surprised, if I'm being brutally honest, and I take no pleasure in saying this, I'd be very surprised if Manchester City don't lift the title this season.
Yeah, no, fair points, some great points there. Moving on to the next game, we'll talk about your team now, Jay. Arsenal, Man United.
Do we have to?
Game. I was going to say, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I don't really want to talk about it.
You just woke up from it like I did.
Yeah, not the most exciting game. It felt a bit like just felt a bit like a reserve game. There wasn't really anything to it or anything in it. What did you make of it, Jay?
You've said that. You've hit the nail on the head there, mate. It felt like a reserve game. And listen, I know we don't have fans at any games, but certain games seem to feel it more than others. And I just had that yesterday at the Emirates. It didn't feel like an Arsenal versus United game. And the one at Old Trafford didn't either. These games have always had a bit of bite to them. They've always had a bit of, there's a bit of needle there. Everyone's up for it. There's a bit of a rivalry. It's not the same as City and United or Spurs and Arsenal, but there is a bit of a rivalry there between Arsenal and United because of the way that we were in title races for a decade between each other and some of the stuff that went on with that I don't need to go into. We all know about all that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it feels like training games, these games recently, and I don't know what it is, because this was a massive game for United. We obviously lost the Sheffield United game. I looked at that team, the Arsenal team. No Aubameyang. There's another. Was it Saka who's missing as well? I think I can't remember, but I remember looking at the team thinking, you know what? I fancy us today. I think there's only, and you may disagree, Karleigh, and I don't blame you if you do, but I looked at your team and thought there's only Thomas Partey who I think walks into United's team. If I'm being honest, I mean you can have a debate over a few others of that starting 11. I mean, not on the squad. Yeah. But I thought I wouldn't take many of them other players, if any, in our starting 11. I think we've definitely got a stronger team. And okay, we probably had the better chances. I think Cavani had a couple of chances, and at least one of them he should have scored. But it wasn't a game to remember, and it was a really frustrating performance for me in Manchester United, because Ollie said it after the Sheffield United game. He wanted a reaction, and I felt that Arsenal were almost there for the taking because you had players missing, and we didn't test you enough. How many saves did Leno have to make? Was it even the Cavani one? The one that he did, I think, was going wide anyway. The other one went wide. The Rashford didn't even get his shot off. It was just a bit like, I think Fred, of all people, was the closest one who came to scoring, who produced a great save from him. So, yeah, United's record against the top six isn't good enough. And if we've got any sort of slim title aspirations, we've got to improve against the top teams, because so far I think we've drawn 4 and lost 2 against when I say top six, it's how you differentiate that. But the bigger teams, shall we say. And yesterday was a case in point. It just felt like you said, like a training game, and that's, it's really deflating.
Yeah, I mean, you've made some really good points there. And Ian, I want to come to you on this. Do you think, because we all know that, so yesteryears when there was games and there was derby games, Arsenal, Man United, or games when people really fight for something, there was a bigger rivalry. Do you think that rivalry has kind of, slowed down a bit because players now are friends from different clubs a lot more, and also with the fans not being there? Do you think that's the reason why games don't seem as fiery, or do you think that football's just changed now and that same kind of fiery rivalries just aren't around anymore?
I think it's a combination of everything you just said, to be honest with you. Crowds make a massive difference. Arsenal playing Man United with all the all the rivalry you've had over the years, with your Vieira and your Keane and so forth like that. You imagine that as in a packed house. Yeah. So you're either at Trafford or it wouldn't have been the Emirates then at the time. Highbury, sorry. Yeah, it would be which is a tight, close, ground. So you can imagine a crowd on top of you, everyone giving it. With this pandemic at the moment, you're not getting that atmosphere. That kills it to start with. Like you said, a lot of these guys, they're friends. Even with Rian. Do you know what I mean? They're all friends. They all know each other. When I read certain things in the paper where people trying to put certain names up against Rian and that, I laugh because I think they're mates. So you're not going to get that. Between them, you're not going to get that. Yeah, of course it's a pride thing. They want to win on the day. But ultimately, it's like they're all wishing each other the best. Especially if they play with them at international level as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like as much as, Rian lost the other day 1-0. Yeah, listen, he wanted to get one over on Phil Foden. Of course he does. His mate needs to play with. But after that, they'll be talking to new mates. That's how it works. But I was very surprised at the reaction from Man United. I expected some goals. To be honest with you, because that was a bad result. Whether you like it or not, that was a bad result for them. Yeah, against Sheffield United. And for me, they had to go for the 3 points. Yeah, this time around. So I was surprised that, like, it was like an under-23. It was boring. I was like, Arsenal, Man United. This is not how the game goes. You could have 0-0s that are really humdingers. That was dead. Do you know what I mean? I was really surprised. And, even when I looked at Ollie afterwards trying to explain it, he gave off that as well. Do you know what I mean? He didn't seem agitated or like disappointed. He's like, well, that's the way it goes. I'm like, really, Ollie? You just lost against the bottom side of the league, right? You're looking for a reaction from your team. Your supporters going to be looking at you leading that and saying, well, come on, get them going. And for me, in the long term, that's the worrying side. Yeah? When things are going good, it's sort of like papers over the cracks. But when you look at certain things like that, I'm thinking, long term, it's why, Chelsea get rid of managers. They want results. Yeah. They want to know they've got someone in charge that's going to get reaction out of the team that Roman pays for. Yeah. And I just felt, I was disappointed. I was really expecting a really good game there. But it is what it is. But, answering your question, I do believe it's a lot of it. They're all friends, and the pandemic hasn't helped with no crowds and so forth there.
Yeah, no. Some really good points there, gents, to be fair. Some really good points. Moving on, Leicester Leeds. Would you say this was a shock result? Obviously, Leeds coming away with the points. 3-1. I mean, what did you think, Jay? How did you think Leicester performed? Because for me, just quickly, I actually had Leicester possibly coming out as an underdog and maybe nicking the league, because I like the way they play. I like what Brendan Rodgers does. And I thought the way that other clubs have kind of, not been at their best, I really thought Leicester might be able to secretly just sort of creep up from behind and maybe nick it. But they're just as inconsistent as well now. I mean, what have you made of Leicester so far?
Yeah, I think the thing with Leicester, and I get where you're coming from with maybe Leicester can sneak it. They've done it before. They did it in 2016 when no one saw that one coming, did they? And maybe that could happen again. And they sort of fell off a cliff, didn't they, towards the end of last season? They were third for practically the entire season until like the last week when they ended up in 6th. And I would have felt sorry for them if it wasn't for the fact that United got into the top 4. So I was kind of glad. But I think that for me, I know it sounds like it's oversimplifying it, but it's even a case in point today is there's just that over-reliance I feel on Jamie Vardy. I feel that like Jamie Vardy he's the guy that makes them tick. He not only does he get all the goals or most of the goals, he's like their talisman. He's the guy that they sort of look to. And it's not just his goals. I think it was the Chelsea game. Forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but I think it was a Chelsea game where I think Maddison scores because of Vardy's run. Vardy ran, and like 3 defenders went with him because they're so like Jamie Vardy, and Maddison was like in acres of space, and he's a decent player, James Maddison, and he got his goal. And I think that's the problem they've got, is that over-reliance on Jamie Vardy, because the likes of Jose Perez or Kelechi Iheanacho, for me, they're nowhere near the same class as Jamie Vardy. And I think that whilst you've got players like Harvey Barnes and like Maddison who can step up and get goals and stuff, if Vardy is out for any extended period of time, I think the margins for Leicester to win the league or to challenge for the league, like they did in 2016, they need like everything to go their way in terms of injuries and fitness and things like that. They can't afford. They're not City, who can afford Aguero or Jesus to be out, or even Liverpool, who can have Salah having enough, a month off or whatever, because they've got Mane or whoever steps up. They need Vardy and one or two others to be there pretty much every week. And when he's not, it showed. And in answer to your original point, it was an upset for me as well, because I thought Leicester, even without Vardy, still had enough to beat Leeds. But it's a big result for them, and it caps off a horrible weekend for me, because Leeds, Liverpool, and City all winning. Man, I've had enough.
Bad time for you this weekend. And Ian, just a touch on Leeds. I mean, Leeds have shown some fantastic stuff at times, haven't they? They've kind of, put in some wonderful performances, but then they have been inconsistent. Do you think if Leeds next year can kind of get their consistency, do you think they could become a real kind of mainstay in the Premier League over time? Or do you think it's going to be too much of an ask for them?
No, I don't think it's too much of an ask. Not when you've got a coach like Bielsa for you. I said at the beginning of the season, as a neutral, watching Leeds, you want to watch their games. Yeah, because 9 times out of 10 you're guaranteed goals. Yeah, and let's face it, as supporters, we love to see goals. So that's what we got. Watch. So with them today, was it a surprise? Not really, not for me, because it's like what I said about Chelsea when Frank took over at the time. They're gonna, they're gonna win some games, right? That you think, wow, how do you win? And then they're gonna lose games like you think, how are you gonna lose that? And I think that's the same with Leeds. They will give on their day. They'll give anyone a hard game. First thing of the season, they gave us a hard game. We beat them, but they scored 3 goals. Do you know what I mean? So they will always score goals wherever they go. Now, for me, we're going for Leicester. I said it. I think I said in the last podcast we were together. I said with Leicester, I never fear them, because they, as well as they're like they're dark horses in the sense that when there's no pressure on them, they go about their business. When they have to get that result, I always find they falter. Yeah. Brendan did. I know it sounds horrible, but Brendan did that with us when he was here. When it got to the nitty gritty, right, we fell away. It's just getting it over the line for me with Brendan. Yeah. As good as coach he is, right, I think it's just getting it over the line he will struggle with. That's why I'm not really fearing them. Do you know what I mean? I don't look. So it wouldn't surprise if they ended up say 5th. It would not surprise me at all. So when there's no pressure on them, they'll get results. But as soon as you're waiting for it, then no. Yeah, that's with Leeds. Love watching them.
Yeah, Leeds are fantastic to watch, aren't they? They've come up and been really brave. When you look at kind of them compared to the other teams, they've come up and said, "Listen, we're going to play the Leeds way, and that's the only way we're going to play." And I admire that. No,
they've got an identity, which is nice, which is good. You get teams that come up who are glad to be in the league, and straight away put part of the bus and all that. Do you know what? If I was a team just being promoted, and I was playing one of the big boys, for me, I'd always look at it as a free hit. It's an absolute free hit, right? So go for it. I would rather get spanked 2-0, but we stuck it on them, than we lost 1-0, we sat back, and they scored in the 85th minute.
Yeah.
Really? What's the point? So for 85 minutes, you tried to hold on, and then you've lost it anyway. You might as well have a go.
Yeah, no, agreed. No, some fantastic points there. I'm looking forward. Leeds are my team that are kind of, I've got a few friends that play for them and stuff like that, and I want them to do well, and I like what they're doing, to be fair to Leeds, so it's good to see. Next game, Chelsea, Burnley, and I'm surprised that
Sorry. Did you hear him?
Karleigh, sorry then, you broke up then, mate. Sorry, mate. Yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
I had the Chelsea bit.
me and Jay are looking at each other going, what's he saying?
That's all right, no problem. No, I was just saying, obviously, good start for Thomas Tuchel. Was anyone surprised at kind of the Lampard sacking? No, I think, did everyone see it coming?
I think Ian touched on it there about Lampard and Chelsea. When you talk about Ole and the way Chelsea go through managers, it is their MO. They do it, and to be fair, it works for them. You look at the results and the trophies Chelsea have won. They've all every 3 or 4 years they win the Premier League. They've won a Champions League with Roberto Di Matteo at the helm. No disrespect to him, but no one saw that one coming. They win the FA Cup like at least once every 4 or 5 years as well. So you can't say it doesn't work. The only sort of slight surprise with Frank Lampard was the fact that he was a bona fide club legend. And it was like, is that going to alter their way of thinking because it's Frank Lampard and because he's such a hero to the fans? Or are they going to give him a little bit more time? But they've stuck to the sort of the Chelsea way, if you will. Results were going massively against him as well, and performances. I saw Chelsea a few times and they looked pretty low on confidence, which is surprising because you look at some of the players they've got, but they looked like a team that just was struggling like confidence wise. But Tuchel come in, he was a sort of the manager that you could sort of see going whichever job came up next. He thought he's going to come in for. Had it been, I don't know, United, for example, he's been linked with us for a little while as well, or one of the other big teams, around Europe. He was a sort of flavour of the month, and you can understand why because of the career he's had. So yeah, it's not that surprising. Maybe a slight surprise that because it was Frank Lampard, they did give him more time, but he's gone in there and he's on an 18-month contract. So he's certainly maybe he's under a little bit of pressure there because it's like, we'll give you 18 months and see how you get on. Do you know what I mean? Which is like the Chelsea way, isn't it? It's not like, here's a 5-year deal. Like, here's 18 months and you crack on. But with the players they've got, if he can get a tune out of him, then they'll be a force to be reckoned with because they've got some real quality players, Chelsea. Let's not kid ourselves. Have we lost Karleigh again? Or is he?
I think so. His picture's there, but...
Is he stunned by my
I think he's stunned by what you have to say, Jay.
Yeah, he's just astounded by my insight that Chelsea sack managers.
Yeah, too much info for him. Karleigh, how you feel, son?
Listen to that, man. Technology. How are you, Ian? Anyway, you all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm blessed. Oh, he's dropped off. He's had enough. He's had enough now. That's it. No more.
It's give up, man. He's seriously, he's had enough of it all.
Do you know what? Going on to what you said though, Jay, with regards to that, it's like, am I surprised he went? Yes and no. It's like, like you said, I always felt because he was like a legend there, he'd get a little bit more time. But then, like you said, especially when he was bringing through the youth, you thought, okay, they're changing their way of their philosophy and that. So you thought, there you go, he's playing like your Mason Mounts, your Tammy Abrahams of this world, right? So you thought, and obviously Callum. So you thought, here we go, different ethos now. But boy, Roman's just showed you how ruthless he can be. He's probably looked at, look, I gave you 230 mil, right? And like you said, you're not making these guys sing a tune. So I need to get somebody that possibly can. We talked about a guy that's dealt with Mbappe, Neymar, Cavani. So he's dealt with world-class players. So you would hope, well, I wouldn't say hope, but you would think, should I say, that he will get a tune out of these guys.
It's interesting as well, isn't it, that Karleigh's put some money in the meter.
I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties here, isn't I?
We thought you were stunned by Jay's answer.
Thought my answer about Frank Lampard had stunned you into like a sort of psychosis.
It did. It stunned my internet. That's what happened. I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties here. Sorry, gents. I apologise.
Don't worry. It's all right. You may have noticed me and Ian can just chat on anyway. We're all right. Don't worry.
Yeah. We're leading it. I thought it was called the Jay Motti Show.
New shows Ian and Jay now every Sunday. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Now and again, we have Karleigh on as well. We invite Karleigh on every now and again.
A special guest, Karleigh Osbourne, on the slide there.
I'd probably stay on longer, to be fair, if one of you two invited me, so it'd help. Apologies. I do apologise, gents. I'll let you finish off where you was, and then we'll crack back on.
Ian was just making a point there about sort of Tuchel coming in, obviously, and what's going on with Lampard. And it was interesting today with Chelsea that, you know, you look at the players that Lampard's brought in and how they've not really gelled and struggled. And he brought Alonso back in today, didn't he? Which was a big call.
Yeah, he scored 84th minute. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a player that was not playing under Lampard at all. Was, you know, and it's like that is one sort of advantage that Tuchel's got now as a manager coming into Chelsea is the players that have just been bought that aren't performing or that he doesn't fancy. He's not obligated to play. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're like I don't want to make it all about United, but I'll use it as an example because I know it's my team. Like Ollie's tied to Harry Maguire. Like, if Harry Maguire's not playing well, and I have this argument all the time, he doesn't get dropped. He's not going anywhere because Ollie's bought him and he's an £80 million defender that Ollie bought and made captain. Now, I'm not saying Harry Maguire deserves to be dropped because he doesn't, but, you know, there's this argument that comes up sometimes, always Harry Maguire. I'm like, he's not going to drop him. He just bought him for £80 million. He made him captain. It's not going to happen. Lampard's bought all these players, and like whether, you know, you can argue about how that works at Chelsea, whether he wanted him or whatever, but they're his players. Tuchel comes in, he can do what he wants. So if he doesn't fancy Havertz, or he doesn't fancy Werner, or he doesn't fancy Chilwell, he can drop him, and no one's going to go, well, you bought these players. Why are you dropping all these? Why have you dropped 150 million quid's worth of players? Because he's like, he didn't. And it sort of showed today, you know, he brings in players that have been out in the cold, and they perform. And also, you know, you're giving players that clean slate. You're saying to them, if you perform for me, you're in, or you got a chance. Whereas Alonso may have felt like a couple of weeks ago, what, you know, I'm done here. I ain't got, you know, Lampard don't fancy me. He's brought in another left back. I'm done. Whereas now it's like everyone's starting afresh. And to be fair, it seems to be, I know it's only, 2 games in. But it's you know, it's doing all right. And like I said earlier, I'm a little bit concerned, you know, as a United fan, because I have to be brutally honest, as a United fan, I see, despite the start we've had, I think it's going to be top 4 for us. And if Chelsea get their act together, then that's another team fighting for that top 4.
Yeah, good point. Good point. We're moving into the kind of the last bits of the games now of the weekend. So, you know, I'm looking forward to getting through these. But just before I do continue, please keep liking, sharing and subscribing, people. Again, thank you for all the support. It's been fantastic. Even with the technical difficulties, we've always got people on that will take over the show when I disappear. So it works well. So, yeah, thank you for the support. Keep liking, sharing and subscribing. It's fantastic. Next game, gents, which I would say was probably a bit of a shock result. Everton-Newcastle. Ian, what did you make of this result?
Did not see that coming for Toffee. No way did I see that coming. I'm glad because Everton lost. Obviously, being Liverpool. So in that sense, I'm glad. But no, joking aside, Ancelotti, top manager, doing well with Everton. What do we call them? Noisy neighbours, as they say. But no, I didn't see that coming at all. Especially after the way they performed against Sheffield United. Do you know what I mean? When I saw that, I just thought they're doomed. Not they're doomed, but they're on free fall at the moment. So for him to get a result like that, fair play to him. Do you know what I mean? Because I would, if I was a betting man, I would have put no money on them for that. So that's actually a brilliant result for them. Really, really good result. From a personal point, obviously I didn't want them to win because I wanted them to be still down there and free falling towards Sheffield United way, obviously the Korean scenario. But but fair play to them. Away from home, Everton. Not many teams I think are gonna get results so much there. With what Ancelotti's doing. So I think it's a very good result for them. Excellent result.
No, definitely. I mean, in regards to Newcastle, Newcastle have always been perceived as a massive club. They are obviously a big club in terms of fan base and things like that. But for quite a few years now, they've not really been hitting the heights that everyone wants. But they always seem to just throw out a shock result every now and then. They do have the capabilities of, getting a result like this against Everton, don't they, Jay?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we was on the receiving end of one beginning of early last season, where they beat us, and no one saw that coming. They were struggling, and they got a 1-0 up at their place. But I'm glad for Steve Bruce. I like Steve Bruce. Just gives the United connection. Obviously, he's an ex-United captain. And I think he's on a bit of a hiding to nothing at Newcastle because they've not got loads of money to spend. But the expectation from the fans sometimes, and I get it because they've got a lot of fans and, football's massive there in the Northeast. And the sort of success starved and they demand a lot. And he hasn't really been backed. I know they've had a couple of signings, but realistically, he hasn't had a lot of money thrown at him. You look at where Newcastle really expected to finish, if we're being brutally honest, probably sort of 11th, 12th at best. And he, as Ian said before, they're in almost free fall. I felt for him. I thought this looks like a team that could just end up getting sucked right into it and end up getting relegated. So that was a massive result. And Steve Bruce he's wrong about the changes. I mean, he made 8 changes the other week. I think it was midweek. And you look at that, and I thought for me, that almost seems a little bit desperate when you do something like that. When you make so many changes, it's like, whoa, hang on a minute. Is he just not got a clue what his best team is, or is really? But it's kind of worked because he's brought in all these changes, and then a week later or a few days later, then you've seen a reaction, and he's made some bold decisions. 1 minute Andy Carroll's in, next minute he doesn't even get off the bench. It was Callum Wilson who's had a sort of decent time of it up there at Newcastle. Obviously got his goals as well, and if he can fire the goals, if he can get them the goals that he's been brought in to do, then they've got a chance. Newcastle, they have, because I think they have got some decent players. They're a team, though, for me, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but I think it almost gets ignored sometimes. They're a team and a club that will suffer perhaps a little bit more from having no fans. I just feel that, you guys have all been the St. James's. You know what it's like. It's a right atmosphere there.
Yeah.
And sometimes that crowd really gets behind the team. It can really make a bit of a difference. And I get it. Every fan will say, well, our fans will do the same. And But just for me, I feel like Newcastle might suffer a little bit more than others, some others, from not having fans. So I still think they've got a lot to do. But as Ian said, that's a massive result against a very good Everton team with a very good manager. And hopefully Newcastle, from their point of view, and Steve Bruce himself, can take a bit of comfort from that and get a bit of confidence from it as well.
Yeah, no, agreed. Next game, Southampton, Aston Villa. Aston Villa are a bit similar to Leeds this year. I feel like they've kind of just decided they're going to do it the Aston Villa way and they're going to go with that. A good result for them yesterday. What have you made out of what's happening at Aston Villa and how they're building as a club, Ian?
I'll tell you what, considering last season, what Dean Smith's done this season is absolutely brilliant. I remember seeing a little segment on telly yesterday with a young lady, a fan, and to me, she summed it up. She turned around and said, we're actually enjoying watching the Villa again. I can't tell the last day I've said that. Do you know what I mean? So, listen, all about Jack Grealish, innit? To me, that was their best signing. That was their best signing. The fact that they kept him, he's, like you say, he's their talisman. He's the one that makes them tick. They were a bit fortunate yesterday, to be honest with you, because I thought Southampton deserved something out of the game. I still say now it should have been a penalty. But, I felt for them really because when they played Sheffield United, mate, they were awesome. They did not let Sheffield United settle. They were on them. They steamrolled them. But I think for Villa themselves, like I said, from last year, I think he's done an amazing job. It's all about next season for me. They're safe this year. I can't see them having any problems. Obviously, they've kept Jack Grealish. Watkins, what a signing.
Yeah.
I watch him and I think his work rate. There's times he lost the ball and he won it back and I'm thinking, wow, look at that. Do you know what I mean? Even McGinn's doing his stuff in the middle of the park, working hard. Ross Barkley, when they had their bit of a funny run, it's when Barkley went in the side when he got injured. Yeah. So he's a bit of their talisman as well because he's doing well. I think this has been a brilliant move for him. Yeah. Because if he was at Chelsea now, he wouldn't be getting no game time. So I think it's a brilliant move for him. He actually looks like he's enjoying his football again. Because it's like, I don't know, I watch him and Grealish, it's like they're proper mates on the pitch. They look for one another when they're playing. That type of scenario? Yeah. You know what I mean? So you can tell, so they've got that little rapport between them, which I think bodes well for the team. But I think he's assembled a decent squad there. And fair play to him for what they went through last year, just staying up to what he's doing now. Brilliant. He's done some good signings.
It's very true. And Jay, just coming to Southampton and touching on them, I mean, Hassan Hootel has done an unbelievable job, really, in the way he's turned that around after their drumming. I think it was by Leicester when they lost 9-0 or 9-1, whatever it might have been. Do you think, some other clubs in the Prem might start looking at him as a candidate for a bigger job?
Yeah, I mean, we all thought he was going, didn't we, after that defeat against Leicester? And I think had he pulled the plug, but everyone would have gone, all right, fair enough, that's not worked out. But they've stuck with him. And they're a real team to be reckoned with at Southampton. I've seen them a few times. We did a bit of a smash and grab almost down at their place when the United won. Obviously, don't want to rub salt in with Ian, but obviously they got the result against Liverpool, which, was a good result, not a good performance as well. It wasn't just, a sort of a fluke. They've got some good players. Danny Ings obviously is the one that stands out, but they've got some real players in there. And I think it's not just Hassan Hootel. There might be one or two players that people are looking at as well from Southampton because, they've done really well this season. And we've got him, I think we've got him on Tuesday. And, there was a time when I used to look at that and go, Southampton, yeah, But no, now it's Southampton. You're going to get a game. You've got to be at it. You can't sort of fax in a performance, as you say, just turn up and you'll get a result. No, none of that, because they've got players that can cause problems. They can defend well as well, and they play a good style as well. I like how they play under Hassan Hootel. You know what I mean? They get the ball on the deck and move it about, and it's quite quick paced as well. And it's like you can almost, if we had it where if you start off slowly, they'll punish you because they don't. You know what I mean? They'll get at you, and I like that about them. And I think that they deserve credit, and he deserves credit for what they've done because it's weird with Southampton, isn't it? I feel like you could have had this conversation any time over the last sort of 10 years, when you go like, Southampton, you know what, could be in trouble this year. And, Koeman, is he going to survive? And then they finish 7th or whatever. And it's like, do you know what I mean? They seem to sort of always do well and get, when they change the manager at the right time and sort of kick on. So they are a good team. And answer to your question, wouldn't surprise me at all if someone came in for Hassan Hootel. But I think he should stay there. I really do. And that's no disrespect to him or Southampton, but they stuck with him, and I think he should show that loyalty as well, because I think if he stays there for a long time, then who knows what they could achieve, because he's got some decent players there. He's got a style. They're entertaining to watch. They've got some good young players as well that are coming through there. So, yeah, I think it's a good fit, and I think I get it when people want to move on to a bigger club and stuff like that, but I think he's a good match for him, and I think he should stick with him. Yeah,
it's a good project for him, isn't it, for sure? Yeah. Moving on, a game that obviously Sheffield United would have been looking at closely, Ian. West Brom, Fulham, being a draw, probably the best result that Sheffield United could have asked for. Out of the two teams, Ian, which one do you think maybe has more of a chance of staying up out of West Brom and Fulham?
Fulham. I won't even let you finish that. Fulham. All day long.
Don't sit on the fence, Ian. Tell us what you really think.
All day long. I said it ages ago that even when they were down there, so to speak, I said their position belies the way they play. Yeah. And no, for me, out of all of them, Fulham, for me, he's the one that looks like he potentially could get at it and play the better football. And, Scott Park sorted out his back line. When they started the season, they had a guy called Hector at the back. Do you know what I mean? I was like, really? Do you know what I mean? And, but he's sorted that out now. So they've got a good base. I think you would have been disappointed yesterday in the sense that they were leading, if I believe, at one stage. Then they were 2-1 down. So, all right, they got the equaliser at the end. But I think he'd have been looking at potentially getting a result there. Because let's face it, West Brom have been leading goals left, right and centre. Even with against United, Sheffield United, I think they've got, I think they're plus 33 and they're 22. I think the goal difference between them is about 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're getting spanked. That's the difference. They're getting spanked, So I think Scotty Parker would have been looking at, he could have probably got a result yesterday. But from a Sheffield United perspective, the best result ever. You know what I mean? Yeah. 1 point between them. Couldn't afford any of them to win. Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, Jay, just touching on West Brom, they obviously made a managerial change and they brought in Big Sam. And we know what Big Sam's about. He's saved teams and stuff like that before. But do you think this is too big a job for Big Sam, maybe?
I know what you mean when you say too big a job. I think it's difficult. What are they? 9 points from safety, and I know it's weird. It was weird yesterday because I know what he was saying there. Like Fulham led, but I think that was a real kicker as well for West Brom to go one goal down at home to Fulham. West Brom were at home, really, I think.
Yeah.
And then you get back in the lead, and then with 15 minutes to go, Fulham getting that equaliser. That's a real sucker blow. And I don't feel like West Brom have had that real bump from Sam Allardyce. Like, they had a draw, I think, with Liverpool, which everyone was like, oh, that's an amazing result, and it was. But they haven't really shown you that sort of bounce that you get. When Sam Allardyce comes into a club, it's almost immediate, isn't it? You feel like he's here, he tightens the defence, they get a couple of results that you think they wouldn't have got them before he arrived, and everything, you know what I mean? But, you know, let's not forget, they sacked Slaven Bilic after he drew at the Etihad. And then, since then, like, other than the Liverpool result, they've not really shown me anything where I think, well, Sam Allardyce has really took effect there. It just feels like they've carried on the way they were. So you can never count Sam Allardyce out, but I think you might be right, mate, because it is a massive ask. And, you know, as Ian said, you know, look at Fulham, they've got an identity, they've got a manager there who's been there for a while. You know, there's a real faith there, and you can see what he's doing. Other teams, it's a similar thing where managers have been around there, have been there a little while. Sam's come in, trying to get a reaction. It's not quite happened. And I don't know, maybe this is the time when he does become unstuck. I mean, it's a long way to go yet. We've got, 17, 18 games. Anything can happen. But, yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. And if I'm being, you know, if you had to ask me, I think West Brom will go down.
Yeah, fair points. Palace Wolves. Palace getting I would probably say this is a bit of a shock result, even though Wolves haven't been as good this season as they had in previous seasons, to be fair, have they? But, I mean, Palace winning 1-0 there. What do you make of Palace? Again, there's always shining lights with Palace. I feel they have a couple of good games or go on a good run, and then it kind of all stops again. I mean, what's your thoughts, Ian?
Actually, I don't think it was that shocker result for me, really, to be honest with you, because Wolves are struggling.
Yeah.
They are struggling. Yeah, they're struggling. What you said at the top when you said about Crystal Palace getting, you know, a good result, then maybe not, and so forth. I was listening to, was it TalkSport or was it Match of Day? One of them programs I was listening to. And they hit the nail on the head. With Palace, they've got match winners.
Yes.
Yeah. You've got the Eze, who to me has taken to Premiership football very well. Fair play to him. Especially you know his journey, what he's done. So fair play to him. Right, Saha, come on. You know what I mean? There's not many teams that wouldn't have him. Yeah, he can win you a game out of nothing. You know, 2 or 3 games ago, Benteke got his shooting boots on. Yeah. All right, even though they're probably looking to let him go potentially to West Brom. But to me, you've got somebody who could do something. You know, even though, what's his name? Townsend. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You've got someone that could do something. Do you know what I mean? Wolves, I don't know. I'm very surprised at the way that, you know, it's going for them, to be honest with you. It coincides with them after letting Jota go. And I think the biggest thing is losing Jimenez. Do you know what I mean? It's only now you realise how much they relied on him. He was their focal point. He was there. Look, he is to Wolves what Vardy is to Leicester. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Totally
so,
agree.
you know, I remember they played us one time and they had a brilliant breakaway. You know, Troy ran down. You know, he got the ball in the middle of the park, spun, pass out to Troy. He's run, and he got on the end of that cross. Yeah, bam. Do you know what I mean? I think beat 2-1 that game. And I just thought, wow, do you know what I mean? This guy, he just knows where the net is, and he would be anyone's number 9. He is class. He's class. So I think personally, they've not really recovered from him. They've got the young 18-year-old boy.
Yeah, the young
lad. Yeah. I suppose it's a bit like what Chris Wilder said about Ryan. I've got him, but weren't expected to play as much as I did. I don't think he was expected to play this young kid as much as he did, you know, but he's having to chuck him in and, you know, he's struggling. But I don't know. For me, it wasn't that shocker result because even the previous game, I think they drew 0-0 Wolves. Do you know what I mean? They're not scoring the goals. They're not doing what they used to do. So I think for Wolves, that for me is a dark horse of being sucked in.
Yeah,
for me.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, actually, because I feel like we know they're not doing well, but no one's really speaking about that. They're not doing well. Everyone's kind of expecting them to just get where they were last season and the season before. But Jay, do you feel and agree with Ian there that they could be, you know, dark horses to get sucked into the relegation battle?
Absolutely. You know, is it 2 points out of the last 5 games? It's relegation form.
Yeah.
You know, so let's not kid ourselves. And, you know, if anything this season has taught us, it's that anything can happen. Any result can happen this season, whether that's, you know, Villa doing Liverpool 7-2, Sheffield United doing Man United. Anything can happen this season. So can Wolves get sucked into it? Absolutely. I mean, what are they, sort of 10 points or 12 points away from it? So there's a bit
They're
of
on 23 poins.
Yeah. So there's a bit of
they're on 23
way.
points, Wolves, yeah.
But if they have another 5 games like the 5 games they've just had,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Which, you know, I mean, I don't just want to repeat what he said, but he has nailed it with the Jimenez thing. He's such a focal point of that team. He brings in the other players as well. He's not just about the goals. I mean, the goals obviously a big point, but he's the guy that gets on in the crosses, brings in the other players as well. They play off him so much. And as Ian said, you know, they lost Jota and then Jimenez with that horrific injury. I mean, it's not easy for them. I do rate Nuno as a manager, and I think that they might get sucked into it. I don't think they'll go down, but they could end up in a relegation dogfight. But I still think they've got enough quality players there. They've got some. I hate using this word, but it's sometimes it applies. Enough leaders in that team. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got the likes of Connor Cody and Moutinho and players that can step up, and I think they'll be okay. But it's not the season that, you know, you like to progress, don't you, as a club and as a fan. You want to see your team and your club moving forward. And Wolves have been on this high, haven't they? Where they've been doing well in the league, been doing okay in Europe as well. Do you know what I mean? And it's like good times are here. And then this season they've tailed off a little bit, and it's not been their season at all. So if I was a Wolves fan, I'd be a little bit concerned that it turns into one of them seasons where instead of even being comfortable in mid-table, you end up getting sucked into a bit of a relegation battle.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Karleigh, Karleigh, can I just add there? Right?
Yeah.
As we speak now, obviously Brighton are playing Tottenham, yeah?
Yeah.
Right? And you'll be pleased to know that Brighton are winning 1-0. Yeah?
Okay.
So looking at the table that I've got here, right? Brighton are 17th. And if they win, they'll go above Wolves by 1 point.
There you go. There you go then.
Well,
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying about being sucked in. They're 17th, right? And they will go up to 14th. That's where Wolves are at the moment, 14th. And they will go up to 14th. So that's how close it is. Because with them, you've got Brighton on 21 before today. Then you've got Burnley on 22, Newcastle on 22, Wolves on 23.
If you look at it as well, Wolves have got some tough games coming up as well, haven't they? They've got, you know, are you playing, Karleigh, your team? Is it Arsenal midweek?
Midweek. I think we've got them. Yeah.
And then Leicester as well. So, you know, if they don't get a result out of either of those 2 games, they're in it.
Yeah. And the thing is with that as well, you know, when you aren't getting the results, you end up you tend to look behind you instead of what's in front of you. And when you do that, it does send, you know, that sends kind of shockwaves through the club where people do think, you know, well, we could get sucked into this, and it doesn't always turn around quickly in those situations. It really doesn't. So it's going to be, it makes the Premier League more interesting though, doesn't it? The Premier League is a lot closer, and, you know, the relegation battles are heating up as well as the kind of top of the table battles. But it is a really interesting season, and I think everything that's happened and that's going on is really kind of, you know, made the season what it is, I suppose. But the one thing that we miss the most is the fans, because I think had the season been like this with fans, it probably would have been one of the best seasons, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Yeah. It's bittersweet in it, because it's like, you know, okay, I'm glad I wasn't there for when United got beat 6-1 off Spurs. But I would have loved to have been at the Leeds game. Do you know what I mean? I've waited 16 years to play Leeds again in the Premier League. We beat them 6-2 and we're not there. So, yeah, it's bittersweet, it is. But I can't, you know, just from personal point of view, and I'm sure you guys are saying, I just can't wait till fans are back in and get back in the stadium. It's going to be great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, last game, gents, West Ham, Liverpool. This game finished 3-1. I would probably say Liverpool kind of needed this result, didn't they, Ian? You know, it's been tough for them as well with the injuries and stuff. One thing I wanted to ask you as a fan, and I don't think many people would have thought this, but obviously, you know, we knew Van Dijk would have a big kind of impact missing him, and same with, you know, the other injuries they've had. But do you think that's affected the front three because they've now had to sit deeper, not having maybe the same faith or the same support behind them?
Partly. Look, no one could legislate for the injury with the centre half. No one envisaged what was going to happen. He's saying that. Remember, we let Lovren go. right? He probably thought we had enough, but then obviously injuries have shown we've had to use after our midfield to cover for our centre halves. I just think part of it is so many players were off form.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so much because of the centre halves. Let's be frank. Trent wasn't having a great time of it. The front three weren't having a great time of it. Yeah. Robbo, so. So you need to understand where we get our goals from is the wings and the front three. Yeah. The runs in the middle, they're our engine. If you look over the years, our midfield don't score goals. Hardly ever. Do you know what I mean? So we didn't lose goals because of them, because they're just the industry. They do the working hard, which allows the others to do what they got to do. So when you've got Henderson and Fabinho, who, when you've got your Trent and your Robbos bombing forward, they drop in and cover. Yeah. When you haven't got that, you know what I mean? It's going to affect you. For me, there was a point where we were actually doing really well, covering, but then obviously when Matic went as well, that was it. That was just icing on the cake. And then obviously now, the other day having to have two centre midfielders as your centre halves, taking out your industry. Do you know what I mean? And that's for me what was affecting us the most. I think getting that result with Tottenham and the way we've done it, right, has put us back on the map again. And we had to follow it up with a victory today. Otherwise, it would have been pointless. Do you know what I mean? And I think we coped really well. I was fearing Antonio a little bit because he's he tends to score case stuff. You know what I mean? But I felt we dealt with him really well. To be honest with you, he didn't frighten me as much as I thought he would. To be honest with you, and I thought Matty Phillips had a tremendous game. And it just shows we have got strength in depth, but obviously you want your BBD back, you want your Gomez, you want your Matics back, which can allow, because, I don't want to see Fabinho back there, ideally. I don't want to see Henderson back there. I want them for a pitch. I was saying on another forum, people talk about Thiago, or maybe don't fit with us and stuff like that. I don't want to see Thiago just in front of the back four.
No, of course not.
Wait. That's where he was. I was like, really? That's not where he's meant to be. Yeah? I want him further up in the midfield. So I want him closer to, your firms. Yeah? For me, to make it work. He's that one. He's a bit like Coutinho when we lost Coutinho. He could find that pass. He could do that. He can't do it as a quarterback.
Yeah.
The only person I know that could do that was Pirlo. He's probably the last person to me who could really do it. You see, you know what I'm saying, Jay? Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember doing the World Cup. He was just doing it anywhere you want. Ping, ping, ping. Do you know what I mean? But for me, it's about, yes, obviously getting those players back, but I do still think we need to get a centre half. We're going to get it now, but before we come online, there was talk about us getting this kid Ben Davies from Preston.
Yes.
So if that comes off, I'll be honest with you, I don't know too much about him, but I've got to trust. Is he good? Listen, I've got to trust the recruitment, don't I? Do you know what I mean?
Whether or not
they brought in Fabinho, so anyone that they bring through the door, you got to say, but they've got an idea of what they're talking about. They brought me in through the door, so what can I say?
It's very true. It's very true. You have to trust them. No, brilliant. Well, gents, listen, that's the end of the show. I really appreciate you being on again. As always, you're a fantastic guest for us, so really appreciate that. Just before we go, I've got a few things to say. Of course, keep liking, sharing, and subscribing our content. We really appreciate the support. We've got a couple of shows coming up as well. Straight after this, you've got the Brighton vs Tottenham post-match reaction show, which starts at 9:20. So make sure you tune into that. And also the Southampton vs Manchester United preview show coming up tomorrow with our special guest today, Jay Motti. You're on that tomorrow, aren't you, Jay?
Yes, mate. I'm back for that one. Massive game, eh? Big game, that man. Needs to get a win.
Beautiful as well now.
I was taking a mick. I just got it in my face because I was taking a mick out of my mate. He's a Scouser the other day. I was like, yeah, we're a Liverpool in the table. And he just sent me, he screenshotted my tweet and sent it back to me. I'm like...
Brilliant. Well, gents, listen, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening/night. And again, thank you for joining us. Look forward to having you on again soon.
Nice one, gents. Right. Nice chatting to you. Cheers, lads. See you later.
Bye.